General. Not one who won most of his battles, but one who won every single one. A military commander whose mere presence on the battlefield struck such paralyzing fear that his opponents, whether Roman, Persian, or Arabian, often buckled before the first arrow flew. We are not speaking of some mythological hero, but of a real man whose record remains untouched across 14 centuries. Khalid bin Waleed, Sayf Allah, the Sword of God. He is perhaps the single most successful general in all of human history, undefeated in over 100 engagements, including major battles, skirmishes, and sieges. But who was this man? How did he transition from being one of Islam's fiercest opponents to its greatest champion? And why, even today, is his name invoked with a mix of awe and terror by military historians and former adversaries alike? The story of Khalid begins not under the banner of Islam, but amidst the entrenched pagan traditions of Mecca. Born around 585 CE into the powerful Banu Makhzum clan of the Quraysh tribe, Khalid was a cousin of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The Makhzum were the aristocracy of Mecca, renowned for their horsemanship, military prowess, and, crucially, their wealth. From a young age, Khalid excelled in the arts of war. He was an exceptional cavalier, a master of the spear and sword, and more importantly, a brilliant battlefield tactician. This early training instilled in him the core skills that would later allow him to reshape the military map of the Middle East. He was naturally positioned to become a leader, a defender of the old order against the revolutionary message brought by the Prophet. For the first few years of Islam, Khalid stood firmly on the side of the opposition. His genius was first recognized by the Muslims themselves, but not in a friendly way. At the Battle of Uhud in 625 CE, the Muslim forces initially gained the upper hand. However, a crucial tactical error, archers abandoning their strategic high ground on the nearby hill, was immediately exploited by Khalid. Leading a devastating cavalry charge, he swept around and attacked the unsuspecting Muslim flank from the rear. This single brilliant maneuver turned a Muslim victory into a costly defeat, demonstrating not just his courage, but his uncanny ability to read a fluid battlefield and act decisively. This moment serves as a powerful contrast. The man who inflicted one of the most painful defeats on the early Muslims would later become the key to their global expansion. The transformation was gradual. After the pivotal Treaty of Hudaybiyah in 628 CE, the political landscape shifted dramatically. Khalid, a man of acute political and military perception, began to see the inevitability and the truth of the new faith. He recognized that the old tribal system was crumbling, and Islam offered a new, unifying and powerful ideology. His older brother, Khalid bin Waleed, who was already a Muslim, played a role in persuading him. Finally, in late 629 CE, Khalid made the momentous journey to Medina and embraced Islam, accompanied by another future military icon, Amr ibn al-As. The Prophet Muhammad welcomed him with immense respect, famously declaring, "Praise be to God who has guided you. I knew you had a measure of intelligence that would not let you accept anything but Islam." This was not just a conversion. It was a strategic gain that instantly elevated the military power of the fledgling Muslim state. Khalid's entry into the Muslim army was immediately tested. Only a few months after his conversion, he was dispatched to the front lines of the Battle of Mu'tah in 629 CE, a clash against the powerful Byzantine Ghassanid forces near present-day Jordan. The Muslim army was small, numbering only about 3,000, facing an enormous Byzantine Arab force perhaps 10 or 20 times their size. The battle was a disaster in the making. The first three appointed commanders, Zayd bin Haritha, Ja'far bin Abi Talib, and Abdullah bin Rawaha, were all martyred. The Muslim army was routed, facing total annihilation. In this moment of utter chaos, the soldiers spontaneously chose Khalid to take command. What followed was a display of tactical brilliance that cemented his legend. He knew he could not win the battle, but he had to save the army. Over the course of the day, Khalid launched a series of bewildering feints. He constantly shuffled his troops, moving detachments from the right wing to the left and the vanguard to the rear, creating the illusion that fresh reinforcements were continually arriving overnight from Medina. This masterful deception caused the Byzantines to pause, wary of a trap. The next morning, Khalid executed a calculated and orderly withdrawal, conducting a textbook tactical retreat that minimized casualties and successfully brought the remaining army back to Medina. It was a strategic masterstroke, turning a near-complete rout into a military feat. It was after this battle that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, bestowed upon him the honorific title that would echo through history, Sayf Allah, the Sword of God. He had lived up to the name immediately. The following years were a testament to his unstoppable momentum. Following the Prophet's death in 632 CE, the nascent Muslim state faced its gravest internal crisis, the Wars of Apostasy. Numerous tribes across the Arabian Peninsula rebelled, refusing to pay zakat to the new Caliph, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and some following false prophets. The situation was dire. The very foundation of Islam was threatened. Caliph Abu Bakr, though facing opposition from some companions who favored diplomacy, stood firm and entrusted the most critical missions to Khalid. The campaign that followed was brutal, swift and absolute. Khalid led the Muslim forces across the peninsula, suppressing one rebellion after another with terrifying efficiency. The most challenging confrontation came against the formidable forces of Musaylima al-Kadhdhab in the fertile region of Yamama. Musaylima's army was large, well-trained, and fiercely loyal. The initial Muslim assault at the Battle of Yarmouk was repulsed, and the Muslim forces suffered heavy losses, including many Hufaz, those who had memorized the Quran. Seeing the danger, Khalid regrouped, utilized his cavalry to maximum effect, and in a crucial move, managed to isolate Musaylima's elite guard. The final decisive fighting took place in a fortified enclosure known as the Garden of Death, a place where the apostates fought with suicidal desperation. Khalid's forces finally broke through, and Musaylima was killed. The victory, though costly, secured the unity of Arabia and saved the caliphate from collapse. This series of victories, won in rapid succession across the unforgiving Arabian landscape, not only restored order, but forged the diverse Arabian tribes into a unified, battle-hardened military machine ready for the world stage. It proved that Khalid was not merely a brilliant commander of cavalry, but a master strategist, capable of executing complex, multi-front campaigns, capable of turning the tide in seemingly lost causes through sheer force of will and tactical genius. The Arabian Peninsula was now secure, but the real test, the great empires of the world, awaited. The stage was set for the conquests that would redefine global power. His success was based on his unparalleled understanding of mobility, surprise, and morale. He understood that a rapidly moving, decisive force could always defeat a slow, lumbering, even larger static army. He was a master of the double envelopment, the surprise flank attack, and the psychological warfare necessary to break an enemy before they were physically defeated. His troops, after the Ridda Wars, believed him to be invincible, and that faith was half the battle won. With Arabia unified, the newly established caliphate under Abu Bakr looked outward, not out of mere greed, but to secure its borders and spread the message of Islam. Their neighbors were the titans of the ancient world, the Sassanian Persian Empire in the east and the Byzantine Roman Empire in the west. These empires had fought each other to exhaustion for centuries, leaving both vulnerable and unprepared for the speed and ferocity of the new Muslim army. And at the head of the campaign, an unstoppable force, was Khalid bin Waleed. His first target, the rich lands of Persia, modern-day Iraq. The Persian army was professional, heavily armored, and commanded by seasoned generals. In 633 CE, Khalid led a relatively small force into Persian territory. What followed was a series of quick, decisive battles that showcased his tactical genius and mastery of maneuver warfare. At the Battle of Chains, he faced a Persian army that had literally chained their soldiers together to prevent retreat. Khalid used a brilliant flanking maneuver, concentrating his cavalry on the vulnerable wings, breaking the chains and scattering the formation. This was followed by the equally crushing victories at Walaja and Ulais. At Walaja, he executed a perfect double envelopment, a tactic rarely achieved in history, encircling the Persian army from both sides and annihilating their main force. The speed of the campaign was unprecedented. Khalid essentially captured the major Persian strongholds in Iraq in a mere matter of months, using a doctrine of rapid deployment, psychological terror, and shock and awe. His letters to the Persian commanders were not boasts, but cold, terrifying promises. Submit to Islam and be safe, or agree to the payment of the jizya, and you and your people will be under our protection. Otherwise you will have only yourselves to blame for the consequences, for I bring men who desire death as ardently as you desire life. This brings us to the core of the user's question. Why did the enemies, be they local Arab Christians, Persians, fear him? The answer lies in his unbroken chain of victory and his psychological warfare. Firstly, the Jews and local Christian Arabs operating under Byzantine protection, and the Persians, feared him because he was literally undefeated. In an era where military reputation was everything, Khalid had achieved the impossible, perfection. Commanders, both Muslim and enemy, began to believe he was divinely favored. Facing Khalid meant facing a statistical impossibility, and this dread often paralyzed their decision-making. Secondly, his tactics were unpredictable. While the Romans and Persians fought according to strict, time-honored formations, Khalid's forces were highly mobile, primarily composed of hardened desert cavalry. He used the terrain, the climate, and the element of surprise as his greatest allies. He could appear where least expected, striking quickly and melting away before large enemy reinforcements could arrive. The fear was palpable. The greatest stage for Khalid's genius and the source of Byzantine terror came shortly after the Persian campaign. Caliph Abu Bakr ordered him to transfer his forces to the Syrian front to aid the Muslim armies struggling against the mighty Byzantine Empire. The distance between Iraq and Syria was vast and unforgiving desert, and the direct route was considered impassable. In one of the most brilliant logistics feats in history, Khalid, with a small elite contingent of cavalry, undertook the legendary Desert March. He crossed the desolate Syrian desert in 5 days, using the camel's stores of water and even locating obscure, forgotten wells thanks to the guidance of a local nomad. This march was a masterstroke that allowed him to strike the Byzantines' rear flank, completely bypassing their forward defenses and arriving at the city of Busra at the exact moment the main Muslim army needed him. This single act demonstrated tactical vision, logistical genius, and the daring that characterized his entire career. The climax of this period came at the Battle of Yarmouk in 636 CE. This battle is considered Khalid's magnum opus and one of the most consequential battles in world history. The Byzantines, realizing the severity of the threat, assembled a massive army, perhaps 100,000 strong, drawn from their best legions, and Slavic, Armenian, and Arab Christian auxiliaries under the command of Emperor Heraclius's brother, Theodore. The Muslim forces were heavily outnumbered, perhaps only 25,000 to 40,000. Khalid, despite facing internal political challenges, he had been secretly replaced as commander-in-chief by the new Caliph Umar, though he kept the news confidential until after the battle to maintain morale, was unanimously chosen to lead. The battle lasted 6 days in the rugged terrain near the Yarmouk River. Khalid did not rely on brute force. He utilized a sophisticated system of tawaif of cavalry, rotating them between the front lines and the wings. This rapid rotation allowed him to exploit every weakness, continuously reinforce threatened sectors, and, crucially, prevent the Byzantine cavalry from maneuvering effectively. On the decisive 6th day, Khalid executed a brilliant, concentrated cavalry charge on the Byzantine left flank. The shock and speed of the charge broke the Byzantine ranks. He then used his cavalry reserve to hit the Byzantine center, pushing their broken formations back into the steep ravines of the river. The slaughter was immense. The Byzantine army was not just defeated, it was annihilated. The sheer tactical superiority displayed by Khalid at Yarmouk broke the back of Byzantine power in the Levant forever. It paved the way for the capture of Damascus, Jerusalem, and the entire region of Syria-Palestine, effectively ending Byzantine control over a critical portion of their empire. After Yarmouk, Khalid returned to the field not as the supreme commander, but as a loyal soldier under Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, demonstrating an extraordinary lack of ego. When Caliph Umar radiallahu anhu officially announced his earlier decision to replace Khalid, He famously stated, "I have not dismissed Khalid because of my dissatisfaction or because of an act of treason. I dismissed him because people glorified him and were misled, and I feared that they would come to rely on him and not on God. I feared that they would think victory was due to him. I want them to know that it is God who grants victory." This transition highlights a crucial aspect of early Islamic leadership, the focus on preventing personality cults, ensuring that loyalty remained with the principle, not the individual. Khalid accepted the decision with the humility of a true believer, declaring, "If Abu Bakr is dead and Umar is the Caliph, then we hear and obey." He continued to serve, playing a key role in the final campaigns in Syria, and even though his command was stripped, his legend only grew. He died a few years later in 642 CE in Homs, Syria, not on the battlefield he so desired, but peacefully in his bed. He expressed his immense sadness at this end, saying, "I have sought martyrdom in 100 battles. Why couldn't I die in battle? No cowards I ever rested in my sleep." His legacy is one of unwavering loyalty to his faith and state, and a military genius unparalleled in history. He remains the standard against which all other battlefield commanders are measured, truly earning the title Sayf Allah, the Sword of God. Was Khalid bin Waleed truly the greatest general who ever lived? Let me know in the comments, and if you want to see more legends from history, hit that subscribe button before you go.